What's up, everybody? I am Sega Lord X, and in this episode we are going to be talking about the other fighting games on the Sega Saturn. You know, those games nobody ever talks about. People love talking about the Capcom 2D games, everybody loves talking about the Neo Geo ports, everybody loves talking about the Sega Arcade 3D translations. But this list of games gets left out of the conversation a lot of the times. So, let's not waste any time, let's jump right on into it.
Astro Superstars was originally released on Sega's Titan arcade hardware by Sunsoft and Tecmo. A Saturn version was released in mid-1998 in Japan. Perhaps one of the most unique fighters on the Saturn, this fighter pits its combatants in fighting matches where you must fly around the stage as you attack. Everything remains on a 2D plane, but you can move above and below the main play area to avoid attacks and gain better position. Astro Superstars is a beautiful game, both in its art style and animation. Its colorful world is also helped by a fittingly upbeat soundtrack and spectacular supers. Astro Superstars goes for around $150 complete, and I feel it's a worthy addition to the Saturn's collection. Criticom would be released in early 1997 for the Saturn by Vic Tokai. I hadn't played this game since then, and a couple seconds into playing it, I remembered why. The game is fantastically ugly, and the gameplay is sluggish at its best. Characters are unbalanced and have little in the way of appeal, both in design and in the way they play. Compared to the likes of Sega's 3D fighting games on the system, they are truly putrid, and even managed to make games like Toshinden seem good. Criticom is dirt cheap, so if you want to see how truly bad a 3D fighter can be, give it a shot. This one is on the PS1 as well. Released in 1998 and also coming from Sega's Titan arcade hardware was Elan Duri. Another unique fighting premise, this one had its combatants riding atop dragons as they fought. Graphically, the game looks pretty solid and is very colorful and detailed, with great backdrops and upbeat music. It had the ingredients to be a top-tier 3D fighter, but unbalanced gameplay that quickly devolves into projectile fests kills this one's potential. Close combat has the chance to be deep and dish out great damage potential, but projectiles launch fast and without much risk factor. A shame. This one could have been incredible. As it is, it still isn't awful and can be had for around $80 or so. Released ultra late in the Saturn's life, and also from the Titan arcade hardware, Final Fight Revenge would grace the Saturn and be Capcom's final effort on the machine. Ironically designed by Capcom USA and released only in Japan, this 3D fighter lives in infamy as one of its worst games. I call BS on that front, as there are much worse games in this very video I'll go over. But Final Fight Revenge does have a host of issues keeping it from being, at the very least, a good game. This one is campy as hell, and nothing is presented in any serious manner. The art and character design are particularly silly. Gameplay is speedy for a 3D fighter, but lacks a smooth flowing combo system to bring rewarding pain to your opponent. Most moves consist of chipping away at each other's life bars. There is a super combo system that helps to alleviate this a bit, however. Final Fight Revenge was released in small quantities in Japan, so the game is rare and commands $300 plus on eBay. And while owning all of Capcom's work on the Saturn is admirable, I can't say it's worth that kind of money. Remember Pretty Fighter X? Believe it or not, that shite series got the 3D treatment in Fist for the Sega Saturn. Released in 1996, it landed on the Saturn with no fanfare and was forgotten about instantly. It is perhaps one of the most boring games I've ever played. Character designs and stages are plain and uninspired. Gameplay lacks any meaningful combo system, and there's no flash at all to the presentation. Even the music sounds like lullabies for children. Everything about this game is screaming for something exciting to happen. Unfortunately, it never does, and the game pays the price for it. This one is dirt cheap on eBay, so it's a good collector's item. Just don't plan on playing it much. Golden Axe the Duel hit the Saturn thanks to the Titan arcade board as well, and man was it a misfire for Sega. Overlooking the excellent hack and slash Revenge of Death adder for this, Sega would enrage a generation of Sega Genesis and Mega Drive fans. Instead, this game delivered onto fans a strictly average 2D fighter that was quickly forgotten. Gameplay consists of typical Street Fighter II style attacks and combos, with none of it being balanced or well implemented. Animation and graphics are beautiful, however, and the soundtrack is fittingly epic with the Golden Axe theme. Overall, it isn't a terrible fighting game, but considering that Sega bypassed a perfectly great arcade port for this, still chaps my ass even today. The Japanese version is affordable, so if you're curious, get it there. Dropped in Japan in 1997 by Atlus, Groove On Fight would be a part of the Power Instinct line of fighting games. Another home release from the Titan arcade hardware, I absolutely love this game. It's animated well, has smooth and fast gameplay, and isn't prohibitively expensive. Matches consist of 2 vs 2 tag team style, similar to Capcom's Versus titles. You'll pay $40 to $50 for this one, and it's worth every penny of that in my opinion. It won't beat Capcom's best, but it's also better than most of the other 2D fighting games on the system. Give it a shot, you won't regret it. Sega would publish Nin Coup on the Saturn in 1995, and it was forgotten soon thereafter. It consisted of 2D sprites battling in pseudo 3D playfields. Gameplay was sluggish and the graphics were pretty plain. The game had an excellent soundtrack, however, and is worth picking up just for that. Fortunately, it is very affordable and can be gotten for under $20 if you look hard enough. It isn't a great game by any means, but you can do a lot worse. Suiko Inbu, or Outlaws of the Lost Dynasty, or Dark Legend, was a Data East Titan arcade board developed game on the Sega Saturn. Released in late 1995, this 2D fighter is another vanilla entry into the genre. Fireballs, uppercuts, and an extremely simple combo system round out the highlights of this forgettable game. Data East would also drop the Saturn exclusive Suiko Inbu Funsaiki in 1996. This sequel would be more of a Super Turbo upgrade than a fresh start, and carries over many of the qualities of the first game. Neither one is terrible, but neither are particularly good. The first game is ultra cheap in Japan, with the second being around $30 or $40. I can't say either one are worth picking up, unless you find them really cheap. Primal Rage hit the Saturn in 1995, and I despise it now as much as I did then. I never liked the way the special moves in this game worked, nor did I appreciate its digitized graphics. It may have helped my opinion if I didn't suck at the game so hard, but I'm so repulsed by its gameplay, I never play it enough to get any better. If you were a fan of the arcade, this version is the best version of that era, with the best looking sprites and animation. You'll pay $50 to $100 for it, depending on region, but I can't imagine why anyone but the most hardcore collectors would do so. Published by Electronic Arts in 1997, the Japanese exclusive Rabbit is a beautiful 2D fighting game that looks like something Capcom would release. With heavy influences from Street Fighter and Darkstalkers, this game is a fantastic hidden gem of a fighter for the machine. Each fighter has an animal spirit that fights with them, increasing their attacks and supers. Gameplay is smooth and easy to get into, and even the soundtrack is pleasant. Character design is particularly strange and very Japanese, with great scaling backdrops loaded with detail and multiple layers. It'll run you $60 or so for this oddity, but it's well worth picking up. Rise 2 Resurrection. Doesn't matter when it was released, doesn't matter by who. My opinion of it doesn't matter either. Here is 30 seconds of gameplay from this atrocity. Saavik Ii was released in 1998 by Microcabin, a strange technical 3D fighter for the Saturn. Its gameplay pitted fighters from various disciplines like boxing, taekwondo, and karate against one another. It relied heavily on picking your opponent apart with parries and big damage combos. Computer AI is super tough and unforgiving, and it'll take you a while to adjust to this flow of gameplay. Unfortunately, huge imbalances favor fighters with reach advantages, making certain characters nearly unusable. Saavik Ii can be gotten very cheap though, so if you're curious, it isn't a terrible purchase. Soko Setokai's Sonic Counsel is a 2D fighter by Banpresto. It was released in 1998 and is a worthy addition to your Saturn library. It's a fast game with great color and animation, as well as a smooth combo system for furious matches. Gameplay follows the Street Fighter II style and is very easy to get into. An upbeat soundtrack rounds out this great addition. The only negative I can pin on it is its Japanese heavy story that you must sit through in between rounds, consisting mainly of a Japanese chick screaming at you for a few minutes. Another hidden gem for the Saturn in my opinion. This one is also affordable at around $35 or so. Ported straight from the PlayStation 1 Mortal Kombat 3. Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 for the Saturn is on this list because it's the only version of this game available from that generation, and most people remember Mortal Kombat Trilogy when thinking about an expanded Mortal Kombat 3. This game would expand upon the PS1 version of Mortal Kombat 3 a bit, with more characters and extra hidden content. Visuals would remain largely the same, though the game was missing some sound effects present in the arcade. This one is cheap and worth owning for the Saturn, especially in light of Mortal Kombat Trilogy being so expensive. WWF Wrestlemania would hit courtesy of Acclaim, Its ultra-fast gameplay and short matches can make it a blast to play with buddies, but other than that, it's a shallow affair with not much replay value. A similar game called WWF In Your House would appear as well, with very similar content and gameplay. Both are cheap if you're curious. Zero Divide Final Conflict is a 3D fighter by Zoom, released in 1997. Based on the PlayStation 1 series before it, Zero Divide Final Conflict would take the Virtua Fighter style gameplay and apply it to armor-clad combatants in 3D arenas. And when I say similar to Virtua Fighter, man do I mean it. Combos and movesets are extremely similar, right down to the animations for them. This means that Zero Divide Final Conflict isn't a bad playing game at all. Its main failings are poor character designs and bland backdrops for the arenas. On the plus side, this game is ultra cheap, so it's a worthy tenner for your collection.
Holy hell, man, 18 fighting games on the Sega Saturn there. Now you may have heard of some of those. Hopefully there are a few you had not, or at least didn't know that much about. I went through and I played all of those games for a good hour plus a piece while I was capturing footage and while I was trying to remember those games. Some of those games were truly awful. A few of them even made me wonder why the hell they were 32-bit games. Some of them could have been done on the Genesis or the Super Nintendo. But a few of those games really did have a hidden gem feel. They really felt like something on the machine that you really were proud of owning that not many people collected. So, if you like some of those games, hit me with some comments down there. Let me know what you've played, what you've liked, what you hated. Man, a few of them I sure as hell didn't like too much. I am Sega Lord X. I really appreciate you guys watching, and I'll catch you next time.